Welcome into the Stack Shack Sports Show. Today, we're going to take a look at NFL free agency. It is really heating up right now. We got a lot of moves all happening this morning, last night, yesterday, the last couple of days. Things have really ramped up as we've got some trades happening. We've got a lot of free agents going and getting locked in on new contracts, some big signings for some big teams. So we're going to take a look at some of the biggest. Shout out to CBS Sports. If you want to follow this is a great tracker they have up. They're updating this live as things change. Legal tampering period. It's open. We can go reach out to these players, and we got some breaking news already. And yeah, very, very excited to get into today's video. So let's jump straight into it. Some of the bigger moves. The first, Kirk Cousins moving to Atlanta. Now, I would say I think a lot of us saw this one coming. Atlanta really needed a quarterback. Desmond Ritter's really not working out. They have a lot of weapons. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. They kind of got the receiver, running back, tight end, at least the stars figured out. They were productive last year even with Desmond Ridder, but he really was not up to snuff, so to speak. Thanks for the pop-up, CBS. And that led them to really needing another quarterback. And there were some rumors of a Justin Fields move, but Kirk Cousins is the better quarterback on the market. I think there was some waiting to talk potentially about a Baker Mayfield signing as well. We'll get to that in a moment. He has also signed, not with Atlanta, obviously. But Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. I think this is a great fit. Atlanta, to me, felt like a team, at least on offense especially, that they're definitely a playoff team if they had a decent quarterback, and Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. Let's be honest here. You look at his numbers even last season before he got hurt, really good. Now, he's coming off of a pretty significant injury, so we'll have to see how that plays out, but I think this is a great fit. I think Atlanta's going to be much, much better. Last season, I projected them to be one of the top two teams in that division because I felt like that division is so weak. And now you add Kirk Cousins, and I think they're going to be fantastic next year. Watch out for Atlanta to be the team that wins that division next season. Going to be interesting. Baker Mayfield staying in Tampa Bay. We'll get to that in a moment. So there will be some competition there, but let's be real here. Kirk Cousins is a huge upgrade for Atlanta, and they got a lot of weapons on that offense. Another big signing this morning, only 15 minutes ago as I'm recording this. DeAndre Swift, right? They lost him to the Bears. Eagles pick up Saquon Barkley. That's pretty impressive. Saquon was probably the number one running back that everybody was looking at. You know, where is he going to go? And he goes to the Eagles. Now, I think this could be a really good fit as long as the culture stuff is fixed in Philadelphia. I still feel like we don't really understand what happened at the end of last season because they went from being really, really good to really, really bad quickly without any super major injuries. I mean, yes, one or two games they had, you didn't have Devontae Smith, you didn't have A.J. Brown, but not in all of those losses. And they go out in the first round of the playoffs when they were a Super Bowl favorite, right? Now, the losing streak took them out of that category, but coming into the season, they were expected to be very good. Doesn't work out for them. Offensive coordinator potential issues, right? And so they've made a bunch of changes in the coaching staff in the offseason, and now they're adding Saquon, but I don't think DeAndre Swift is that bad of a running back. And you've now lost Kelsey to retirement, so how's the offensive line going to be, right? The center is the quarterback of the offensive line, typically. And so how is they going to replace what many consider a first ballot Hall of Famer as offensive lineman in Jason Kelsey? So I've got concerns. I don't know if Saquon really fixes a lot of issues for them, but I don't think a lot of their issues were personnel to me. I mean, this was a team that 2 years ago made it to the Super Bowl. So I think they had good personnel, and Saquon is definitely, I think, a bit of an upgrade and brings in some, some hunger, some fight. He's been stuck at the Giants, who have been terrible. He's been their entire offense. And so I think this is a good fit for Saquon. They do still have a good offensive line, even if Kelsey's leaving. But I'm not sure if this solves the Eagles' problems, because I think the problems were more with the coaching staff. Now, they've, again, made some changes. Sirianni is still there, but we don't know really what happened. What the hell happened in that locker room, in that team's culture? They fell off a cliff. I don't know what happened, and I don't know if a new running back solves that problem. So you'll have to let me know in the comments down below, Eagles fans. Are you really excited about Saquon, or does it not really address your main concerns of the team? Curious to know what you guys think. Christian Wilkins going from the Dolphins to the Raiders. Watch out for this Raiders team, man. Watch out for this Raiders team, especially on defense. You're going to put Wilkins and Crosby on the same defensive line. Whew. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting way too hyped. You can go watch my videos about Antonio Pierce. I think he was one of the better hires of the entire offseason, and I think he's building a great team over there, and they're making some aggressive moves. Gonna be insane. Packers adding Josh Jacobs. Not going to talk about that too much. I think that's, a good running back, but you already had Aaron Jones. You already had A.J. Dillon. Now A.J. Dillon probably going to be leaving, and you had Josh Jacobs, but to me, I feel like Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones, like, who's your running back one? You're now paying a lot of money for running backs, I feel like, right? You kind of are paying 2 running back ones, which I don't know if that's the best idea for the future. So some of the other big moves, we had the Patriots sending Mac Jones to Jacksonville. This was a trade, so we were looking at some free agent signings before. This was an actual trade. The Jaguars give up a late pick for Mac Jones, and he comes in as the backup, right? Patriots get a 6th round pick. I'm going to be honest, man. I feel like the Jags got a great pick here. Mac Jones, I mean, let's be honest. We all agree that the Patriots offense is terrible. It has no weapons, and Bill Belichick was completely tone deaf to anything on offense. And that's where the Patriots were, and that's where Mac Jones was playing. He was playing in that system. He had a defensive coaches and special teams coaches and all sorts of disasters in his offensive room. It just doesn't make sense. So I feel like for a 6th round pick, are you kidding me? Like, go look at 6th round quarterbacks that people are drafting. They're not normally very good. Mac Jones has actually started, and I mean, even if you look at his numbers, 66% completion rate. He won some games. It's not like he's 0-25. He's 18-25. 46 touchdowns, 36 picks, 66% completion percentage. I think he's a great backup. Fantastic. Now, Trevor Lawrence isn't necessarily the most injury-prone quarterback, although he has had some problems maybe recently. But I think this is a great play for Jaguars. I mean, what are you going to do with your 6th round pick? Why not get a really reliable, solid backup for Trevor Lawrence? And if Doug Peterson in Jacksonville can kind of re-energize Mac Jones's career, it could be a great asset. I mean, we've seen this before with backup quarterbacks. You bring in somebody as a backup, you give them some time to play around, to get comfortable in a new system, to not have as much pressure of, having to lead the Patriots and follow Tom Brady. And let's say Trevor gets hurt at some point or sick or something and needs to sit out a game. You come in and light it up. That then turns that player into an incredibly valuable asset. Mac Jones is worth a 6th now. If he just shows up and plays in like 3 or 4 games, or even if he just looks super good in the preseason, he probably is worth more than a 6th-round pick all of a sudden. And so it's kind of a buy low, sell high situation for Jacksonville. I think it's a great, great pickup, and could bode very well for their future. Could definitely be an appreciating asset in Mac Jones. And he's a very reliable backup. Not as talented, we wouldn't say, as Trevor Lawrence, but I would argue that they have somewhat similar play styles. Accurate pocket passers is kind of the idea. Now, Trevor has more mobility and a bigger arm, but Mac Jones is kind of a budget Trevor Lawrence to me. And that's what a backup I feel like should be. You want to try and get somebody who can play in a system that's similar as your starter. You don't have to change the offense when the backup comes in, right? So I think it's a good fit, and very proud of Jacksonville for doing that. They're another team like the Eagles we talked that kind of fell apart at the end of the season. Not sure really what happened exactly. Yes, there were some injuries and things of that nature, but they need a big bounce back. Peterson needs to have a big bounce back year this year. And I think this is a good step towards building some draft capital, building some trade assets for the future should they need to make a move. Let's say in a couple years, maybe they decide Trevor Lawrence isn't the guy. I mean, that could happen. And now you've got some assets here with a Mac Jones to come in as a backup, as well as to be able to trade up, maybe go get a top quarterback in a couple of drafts here. So I think this is a great move, underrated move. Backup quarterback, not very exciting, but I think it actually will pay dividends down the road. And here was the other big one. Russell Wilson to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the key of this, or one of the keys of this, is Russell is signing a 1-year deal with Pittsburgh. They're only locking him in for 1 year. And the Broncos are going to pay $38 million of his salary, which leaves I think 1.2, 1.5, something like that for the Steelers to pay. The Steelers just got Russell Wilson for a year for less than most backup quarterbacks in the NFL get paid. Are you kidding me? I mean, good for Russ and good for the Steelers. Russ is still getting his money, right? Steelers getting the deal of the century. Why wouldn't you take Russell Wilson on that deal? It's so cheap. The Broncos, I have mishandled Russell Wilson in so many ways, I feel like. Let's not even get into what I've talked about in previous videos about the contract situation and the wanting him to take less money and all this stuff. You can go watch that video on the channel. It's pretty easy to find. But they start with Hackett, right? And Hackett is an absolute train wreck. And let's be honest, he then goes to the New York Jets, and he wasn't much better there as an offensive coordinator. We all do see their numbers. They're dead last in offense. So we do have to respect that Nathaniel Hackett is not a good quarterback coach, nor a good offensive coordinator. So they do that. Then they bring in Sean Payton. And Sean Payton and Russell apparently can't even really get through a season without major controversy and kind of hating each other. It's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. And then now they trade him, sign him, release him, let him go to the Steelers. That's not really a trade. They didn't get anything back. But they release Russell, allow him to go to the Steelers, and they're going to pay $38 million of his $40 million contract, roughly. Ridiculous. Absolutely insane. Good for Russell, great for the Steelers. I think this is a huge pickup for the Steelers. Let's take a look at what Russell Wilson's, shall we say, downsides have been. Okay? So one, Since leaving Seattle, he has not been super productive on offense. But let's all be honest here. The Steelers, the last few years, Tomlin's been getting them winning seasons because he's just an absolute masterclass as a coach. But their quarterback play has not been very good. Okay? Like, their offense has not been, shall we say, explosive. Right? So they don't even really need Russell to be this really explosive offensive player. So that's a good fit, right? That's a great fit. And then the other major complaint, and this is, I think, the more significant one, and I think this does play into a few of the other problems on the offensive side and in his play, is Russell has not historically been known the last, few years, maybe super early on we thought he was, but every team he seems to leave and players that used to play with him, he's not a great locker room guy. Not in that he's a super distracting or like he's got a bunch of, extracurricular activities, shall we say, outside of football that are getting him in trouble with the law or anything like that. He just is like maybe super optimistic, very about like, I don't know, himself. He's gotten certain concessions at the Broncos where like his family got to come to training camp, but nobody else's did. And there was just kind of a resentment, animosity that grows, it seems, in locker rooms between Russell and his teammates. So bring him into the Steelers with the coach who probably has the best track record for being amazing at building cultures. Tomlin's not going to tolerate any sort of those kinds of divisions, and he knows how to build a good team culture. So I have faith that Mike Tomlin, he's a culture guy. He's an intensity guy. He's a play hard guy. He's a stay focused guy. And his teams always do that. And that's why he always has winning seasons. And so I think the one, major concern I think I had about Russell is if you're a team picking him up, what do you do with all these rumors about him in a locker room? And I think Mike Tomlin solves most, if not all, of those problems because he's such a great coach at that. He might not be a great offensive mind. He's more of a defensive coach, right? But he does always kind of get the most out of the culture of the team. His teams always play hard. They're always tough. And I think that could be a great fit for Russell. I hope he can embrace that. I hope things go well for Russ. I like Russell Wilson. I hope he does well. Wish him the best. But I do think this was an incredibly great pickup. Incredibly great pickup. Fixes a problem that I think the Steelers have really had over the past, let's be honest, it's been quite a few years since I felt their quarterback had the potential to be elite. We will see. Is Russell washed? I don't think so. I think you saw last season, even with the tension in the locker room and between him and Sean Payton, you look at his numbers, they weren't terrible, right? He was a fairly productive quarterback in certain situations, and the Steelers don't need Patrick Mahomes. They got a team around him. I think this becomes a very solid pickup for the Steelers. They're kind of in this situation. Somebody called it the Andy Dalton situation a few years ago when the Bengals had Andy Dalton and they were good enough to kind of like make the playoffs every year, but they weren't good enough, and Andy wasn't good enough to win playoff games or to make any deep runs. That's kind of been the Steelers the last few years. Like, they're good enough to maybe make the playoffs or they are having winning seasons, right? And because of that, you were never at the beginning of a draft. You're just kind of stuck. And the best quarterbacks are always gone in those first few picks. And so it was kind of this rough situation for Cincinnati until they end up having finally a really terrible season. And then they're able to get Joe Burrow, right? So they needed to have that kind of terrible season, so they had an opportunity to go pick Joe Burrow. Russell Wilson is coming into the Steelers as a way to solve their problem because they are too good of a team to be up at the front, to be looking at a Caleb Williams, at a Drake May, at a Jaden Daniels, etc. Some of these quarterbacks that we think are, really solid prospects coming in this year. We'll obviously see how that goes later, but Russell is able to come in. They kind of need to go the veteran quarterback route. Maybe a Kirk Cousins would have been an option, but, Kirk goes to Atlanta. I think that's a better fit for Kirk Cousins. And Atlanta was more aggressive in that attack. And then, boom, here you go, Russell Wilson moving to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of all these pickups. Lots of players moving around. I mean, I'm looking, as I'm recording, we've got Aaron Jones trending with the Cowboys and the Packers. Is he getting traded? Let's find out. He is being released. So I just talked about this. This just happened as I'm recording this video. Adam Schefter reporting free agent Josh Jacobs came in, right? The Packers signed Josh Jacobs, and I said, where's the room for Aaron Jones? And CBS was saying, well, A.J. Dillon's probably going out. And I'm like, no. Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, those are the two that are similar. Boom. Aaron Jones is being released. He is now a free agent. Where does he end up? Cowboys is what he's trending with on Twitter right now. I think that's probably a decent pick because Pollard looking like he's going to be moving on. And so you'll have Aaron Jones coming in. Very exciting. Let me know in the comments down below where you think Aaron Jones is going to end up. We might have to record another video tomorrow on free agent signings. We'll see how it goes. But let me know what you think of these signings. What are the big signings you're still waiting on? I know there's some Bengals fans worried about T. Higgins, looking for maybe a trade now. And we've got big moves. Getting closer to that draft day, right? Getting closer to that draft day. So tampering period is, over. You can tamper all you want, and things are getting wild and crazy. So we will definitely be following it with earnest this week. Lots of news to be talking about, and we'll see you tomorrow to talk about all of it.